Hi, this is Lisa Unger, and I'm here in my Tiki hut again for my irregularly filmed Tiki talk. Today joining me is author Jennifer McMahon, one of my favorite people and favorite writers, and we're here to talk about just whatever we feel like talking about because it's Sunday morning and we have coffee and where's your coffee?
I finished my coffee.
Oh my God, I have coffee. I
wasn't offered a second cup.
Wow, this is the first cup. And so we're just going to talk about whatever it is we're going to talk about and, you know, hang out with us for a little while and, you know, on this beautiful sunny Florida morning. Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. What an amazing space.
Oh, thank you.
I need a tiki hut in Vermont.
I
Bring
think
a little
you do.
warmth to Vermont.
Yeah, you do need a tiki hut in Vermont.
Except it would be frigidly cold.
Maybe it would be like, maybe you need an igloo.
Maybe I need an igloo.
A
sugar shack.
A
sugar shack.
What is that?
It's where you boil maple sap to turn it into syrup.
Yeah.
You know,
I want to come up and see that. Can you
do.
go do that as like an
You can. You have to
excursion?
come in in March, April.
Oh.
When it has to be below freezing at night and above freezing during the day for the sap to run in the maple trees.
Oh my God, that's fascinating.
It's fascinating.
I need to come see that.
You do. It's pretty amazing. And you know, you go into these sugar houses and it's like...
Oh, well, we need to plan that for next year. Next year it'll be a Vermont.
Yes.
A Vermont excursion.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yay.
So you have a new book coming out in August.
I do.
Will you tell us a little bit about? And that's like my most hated question. So you don't have to tell us what the book is about.
Yeah.
Tell us the title and tell us like just one word about it, like just one the energy of it for you, and that's it. And you don't have to. You have to read it. You have to buy it. So she's not going to tell you what it's about. Okay.
It is called The Night Sister.
Ooh, I love that.
Can I say a little bit more than one word?
You can say whatever you want.
I had so much fun with it. It is set at a family-run roadside motel in a rural town in Vermont, and it takes place in the 50s and 60s, the 80s, and 2013. So I had 3 different timelines going on, kind of looking at how the motel changed and changes in the family. And I will say that it's probably my creepiest book yet. And there may or may not be monsters in it.
Oh, be still my heart. I can't wait. Am I getting a galley?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm waiting. I'm going to be looking in my mailbox for a galley.
As
so
soon as I get them.
I get to read it before anybody else. Well, not anybody else, but before most people. So, yay. I can't wait.
Yes,
that's great.
I'm very excited.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So we were talking a little bit offline about, you know, sort of a supernatural element that kind of, you know, runs through both of our work, and I was just about to say how, like, for me, like, my first book had a strong element, and it wound up getting, like, kind of edited out, and then sort of started sneaking its way back in. And I feel like, for me, I mean, it was my character, Eloise Montgomery, who was really the person that started, you know, when she first showed up, I was just like, oh, you know, a psychic, great.
Yeah.
Like, even if she's a fraud, you know,
it's
cool,
interesting.
right? Like,
yeah,
that's interesting.
The things you can do with that, it's exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And then I just sort of, I feel like it was her influence that sort of led me back to the place where I kind of started. But it's not like, for me, her like, that ability is not, it doesn't seem supernatural to me.
Yeah.
Like, there's a place within Eloise where the sort of normal and the supernatural, or the natural and the supernatural, you know, delve side by side. And there's, you know, of course, the sort of Jungian concept, like Carl Jung believed in psychic phenomena.
Oh, yeah.
And he felt that it was just a, you know, it was just an untapped sort of ability that probably a lot of people had, that it was just a, you know, supernatural, being just beyond natural, or beyond what can be explained by science. Does that resonate with you at all?
I think that there's so much more to this world than meets the eye.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in that, and that we all carry abilities. And, you know, writing the stuff that I do, I get emails from folks who say, they tell me ghost stories.
Right.
I love that. And I'm a big believer in ghosts and all sorts of phenomena that people would call supernatural.
Right.
And
yeah. And I feel like it's a fear thing.
Yeah.
Like, people just want to sort of, you know, like, if you can't explain, like, the scientific method, and this is why, like, one of Carl Jung's big beefs with the scientific method is that it asks questions that demand a certain type of answer, and that if a natural phenomenon doesn't answer those specific questions, then it's like sort of dismissed as an anomaly and therefore rejected by science, as opposed to, okay, here's, you know, 3 acausal or 3 anomalous occurrences. Clearly there's some causal event. Even if you can't necessarily with science explain what that event is, you must sort of acknowledge that there is something else.
I so agree,
And that's something that I've been, you know, just sort of exploring, you know, in the shorts and also with, you know, the book that's coming up and also with Crazy Love You as well.
Oh yeah,
so,
absolutely.
You know, it's like, and you kind of need that in a way, like, because otherwise, you know, I mean, there are only so many, like, real-world explanations.
There are.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
and in the beginning, I felt like when I chose to write about ghosts and sort of otherworldly stuff, I thought that it was important to sort of walk the line and have a rational explanation for things. And I would try to have a character who was a non-believer and who was saying, this can't really be happening, and there's no such thing as ghosts. And then something would shift, and they would realize,
yeah, your character grows with the sort of with the experience. So have you had sort of unexplainable experiences?
Not, you know, when I was a kid, I was absolutely convinced that our house was haunted and that there was a ghost named Virgil who would come down from the attic and visit me in my bedroom. And in my bedroom, I had one of the, you know, the pull-down doors that had the steps going up to the attic that you see in houses, and I had that. And I was sure that was how he was getting in and out. And I would draw pictures of him, and he was this guy with a beard. And I was raised by, it's interesting because I was raised by my grandmother, who was a Freudian psychiatrist.
Oh, wow.
I know. And my mother, who was pretty loopy and was a big believer in ghosts and taught me to use Ouija boards and leave offerings for the spirit world. And so I was raised, I had these two polar opposite sides, and my grandmother teaching me all about science, and if you can't, you know, if you can't use the scientific method to explain something, then it's not real. And my mother saying,
yeah, you know, exactly. So and that's so interesting.
I feel like that's a struggle. That's something that goes on in my head all the time, and that comes out in all my books.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just the whole. I mean, and Freud too is like, you know, he was a big, you know, enemy slash, you know, like, well, they were colleagues for a long time for Jung, and then they wound up having this big break in their relationship because you know Jung was willing to go where Freud was said absolutely not.
You know, when I was in college and started reading Jung, I would have many heated discussions with my grandmother.
Yeah, that's so interesting. That is fascinating. So you have this Freudian grandmother and this like sort of spiritual believer of a mother, and it's like, but it's interesting too because it brings up this whole idea that, you know, the split also between like the science of neurology and the science or, you know, philosophies of psychiatry, and how for, you know, for decades these two disciplines have not been able to find a common ground, and they outright reject each other. Like neurology has nothing to do with psychiatry, and psychiatry has nothing to do with neurology, and it's like, how can you possibly think that? Like, and it's only just now that, you know, the two fields have started to like find common, you know, like a common ground, and like an uneasy common ground. But it's like, and then why does like why does the idea of a spiritual universe conflict with the idea of a scientific universe? Like, why is there a break between those things?
That's why we write the books, because we're kind of
trying to come up with our answers.
Our answers. You know, and that's, you know, that's one of the reasons I write, is to try to answer some of my unanswered questions. Isn't that one of the things that drives you?
It is.
You know, I'm trying to figure things out on paper.
That's probably the only thing that drives me. Yeah. And on that note, thank you for joining us in my Tiki hut this morning. And we're going to keep trying to answer our questions, and we would like you to keep reading, and maybe you'll get some of your answers too. And thanks for being here.
Thank you.